All right. So this class is going to be a little funky today just because normally the way Ignite goes, you're going to 4 classes and then today would be Friday. So we're going to go over some of the stuff, but hopefully you guys have worked on it along the way. So first thing I want to say is make sure you know the first week as you go through Ignite, it's probably one of the toughest weeks because you're learning a lot of systems and models and trying to figure out how to get stuff up and running. But just remember, you know, the big things you want to focus on are starting to do your daily 10-4, doing 3 hours of lead generation, and your big why. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about your big why. When you want to have it in a big way and get out of your own way, you will truly have to get your head in the game. So we're going to watch a quick video. Hopefully you guys have never seen it before. We used to show it a lot in the Market Center, but we haven't seen it in a couple of years. It's Simon Sinek and your big why.
So where do you start when you have a program that's about integrating life for passion? Well, you start with why. Why? And that kicks us off for the first speaker tonight, Simon Sinek, and his talk, Start with Why.
We assume even we know why we do what we do. But then how do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the others? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access, the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they need to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in the civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered man flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered man flight? The Wright brothers didn't do it. There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery. And this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way. And it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because it's easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers, the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage, it has, leather seats, buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. People don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. We bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products. We bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brain, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't come easy. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the 10 things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. Sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and figures, and say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right. Because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, no, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're reading with your heart, or you're reading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, there's other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in the brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need what you have. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, if you hire people just because you do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for your blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. People don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the .com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people will give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions, was the same three things. So let's explore. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shops. Not a single person on the Wright brothers team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich, and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have 5 sets of parts because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, that's an amazing discovery, guys, and I will improve upon your technology. But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. These people buy touch-tone phones just because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but the law of diffusion tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this point, between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system hits. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? Oh, it's about 10%, probably. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling. Oh, they just get it. The problem is how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it. So it's this here, this little gap that you have to close crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat-screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy what you do. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, stood in line for 6 hours, was because what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous, it's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? We should have success then. The TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They are extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR. But TiVo's commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me give you a successful example in more diffusion of innovation. In the summer of 1963, 250,000 people showed up on the Mall in Washington to hear Dr. King speak. They sent out no invitations, and there was no website to check the date. How do you do that? Well, Dr. King wasn't the only man in America who was a great orator. He wasn't the only man in America who suffered in a pre-civil rights America. In fact, some of his ideas were bad, but he had a gift. He didn't go around telling people what needed to change in America. He went around and told people what he believed. I believe, I believe, I believe, he told people. And people who believed what he believed took his cause and they made it their own. They told people. And some of those created structures to get the word out to even more people. And lo and behold, 250,000 people showed up on the right day, on the right time, to hear him speak. How many of them showed up for him? 0. They showed up for themselves. It's what they believed about America that got them to travel on a bus for 8 hours to stand in the sun in Washington in the middle of August. It's what they believed. And it wasn't about black versus white. 25% of the audience was white. Dr. King believed that there were 2 types of laws in this world, those that are made by a higher authority and those that are made by man. And not until all the laws that are made by man are consistent with the laws that are made by the higher authority will we live in a just world. It so happened that the Civil Rights Movement was the perfect thing to help him bring his cause to life. We followed not for him, but for ourselves. And by the way, he said the I have a dream speech, not the I have a plan speech. Listen to politicians now with their comprehensive 12-point plans and others. Anybody. Because there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power or authority, but those who lead inspire us. Whether they're individuals or organizations, we follow those who lead, not because we have to, but because we want to. We follow those who lead, not for them, but for ourselves. And it's those who start with why and have the ability to inspire those around them or find others who inspire them. Thank you very much.
Simon Sinek.
Start with why.
Start with why. There's a whole, he's got a whole website of like different stuff. Just that video actually goes just to that point so you don't have to watch the actual presentation. Wow. So that one's only 18 minutes. What do you guys think about that?
Good.
I mean, it's interesting because he brought very good points. You know, like the Wright brothers, you know, most people when they have success or failure, like he said, they're going to blame, you know, the typical things, which is either you were underfunded, you didn't have the right people, or it wasn't the right conditions to be selling it. And as he explained, you know, the gentleman who was supported by the War Department, he didn't do it, and the Wright brothers did because they all, you know, they wanted to achieve something to change people's lives versus the other guy just wanted the fame and the fortune and the money. So as we're going through, Ignite, that's something you want to keep in hand. And it's not a big deal if you don't know what your big why is right now. That's not a huge deficit, but eventually that should help. You should kind of figure out what you're working towards, what your big goal is, what your long-term goal is, and all that. So we're going to kind of recap the stuff they've done in the first 4. I don't know if you guys have been to all the classes. So they just had some key points. They want to make sure you're following, as you've gone along the way, which is, set a financial goal and then calculate the number of transactions you would need to reach it. I believe April's probably done that exercise with you guys before a couple times. Yeah. We even have documents for you guys to walk you through that. That you got your database of contacts organized, you entered them into eEdge and launched many of your contacts on 8x8 and 30 touch campaigns. That you've called your Mets for referrals. That you made a list of your allied resources and market center resources and set appointments to meet with them. That you defined your big why and your value proposition. That you've time blocked your calendar for your daily 10-4 and protected this time. That you identified a property and prepared for an open house this coming weekend, which I know someone is on that one already. That you got your business tools in place. And then, of course, you've completed your daily 10-4 for Monday through Thursday. We're gonna skip that part. We're not gonna go over that. So ideally, what you would do then is you would take your daily 10-4 scorecard, look at it, and make sure you're doing your 10. You got your 10 Mets, your 10 prospects, your 10 follow-up with notes, and that you've previewed 10 homes this week. So I mean, it's a pretty good rule of thumb to stick by. I know some days it's hard with tour and other stuff going on, but it's kind of like, as long as you're continually watering the lawn, grass is going to grow. Sometimes you have stuff come up, you can't get home and water the lawn, but as long as you're working towards it, you'll eventually figure out what your goal is. So did anybody achieve any milestones or big ahas as they've gone through the first 4 classes for Ignite? Anything you learned new that you didn't think of before?
Oh yeah, I learned stuff.
Okay.
I got things that have been told to me many, many times, and it finally clicked.
Sometimes it takes things a long time. I mean, I always use like even cigarettes, for example. They've had for years and years and years, they've had notices out that, cigarette causes cancer. And the story of my grandpa did pass away of cancer when I was 7. And my grandma stopped smoking right after that. But if you ask her, and even now it's been 30 years probably, if you ask her why she stopped smoking, she always says that's around the time that cigarette prices went up. So she's always been too proud to admit that, really was her husband died and it scared the crap out of her and she needed to quit smoking. So yeah, sometimes we have those reminders, and you always got to look at that this is a marathon, it's not a race. Rome wasn't built in a day. And when you give you guys even statistics, I've heard NAR present on before, National Association of Realtors, that 80% of the business that's going to be done in 5 years, those people aren't even in the industry yet. And they can go all the way back to the 60s and see that cycle just continuing, to go and change. Because we don't know what new technology things are going to come in the next 5 years. Things are always changing. Even now, it seems like it happens a lot quicker. For years, everybody used to use Craigslist. Craigslist was a really good resource. But then about a year and a half ago, that died off. So, we've seen people shift away from that. Now more people are using Zillow and Trulia, but someone's going to come up with something that'll beat that at some point that clients will feel more comfortable using. So does anybody have any wins they've experienced in the last 2 weeks as they've been going through Ignite? Any things, any clients, any tough things you were able to pass through that maybe you thought you wouldn't be able to before?
I might have a new client.
That's
I
good.
have a referral from the guy who was last week, and I set her up to meet with Roxanna to get qualified
Oh, cool.
on Tuesday. So,
Good.
and somebody that I met first day I started at Keller Williams, that one, was was a client,
Mhm.
got put on hold because she went on maternity leave.
Mhm.
And so she's back to work and getting her stuff together to get pre-qualified as well.
Well, that's good. That's why you want to make sure you always put and implement systems and models. I've been helping Leanne a lot as she's getting more acclimated to TL role. That some things, it's great that we all have a powerful brain and we can use it, but make it as simple as possible. Like now she's using Top Producer, so she loves it. When she comes in today, it pops up. If there's anybody she needs to follow up with, it automatically tells you that, because when you're done having that conversation with them, you flag it, so the next time, it'll tell you if you got to make them a call in 2 weeks, you flag it, so then 2 weeks when you turn your system on, it tells you need to call this person today, so you're not remembering it. I mean, there's so much other stuff that can happen. When everything's working great, the systems and the models aren't as needed. It's when, most things aren't great every day, just like me, I have to work. When I first started in this business, I kind of just willy-nilly went through the day, and I've learned I actually have to time block certain times for certain things, because if you don't work on it during that time, eventually the day is going to happen. And then once the day happens, you never know what your day is going to have. A family issue, you could have a client issue. There's a lot of different things, curveballs that can be thrown at you during the day. So you got to be able to adapt and change on the fly. Did you guys see any opportunities for improvement that you encountered during the past 2 weeks? Always. That's good. Well, I know I tease Leanne because I've been helping her out on some of the recruiting appointments and stuff. She's like, "Man, you know stuff." I said, "Yeah, but I wasn't born like this. I didn't start. It's because I've been here for 9 years. So over 9 years, you'd hope to God you'd pick some stuff up along the way, right?" But I'm always improving. I have a peer partner now I'm working with. She's an MCA down in San Jose. We have a coaching call once a week. We go over our 401s, and we bounce ideas off each other, because there's stuff I can glean from her. There's stuff she can glean from me. We all have to realize that's one of the huge advantages with Keller. I know you've worked at another company. You haven't. I know you're just getting started. But, I've heard countless times, not just here locally, in other places, that, when you work at most other real estate firms, that's not the case. You're just kind of out on an island by yourself. And with Keller, it doesn't matter how big. If you guys know who Chris Heller is, he's our company president now. About 5 or 6 years ago, me and Rick went to Mega Camp, and we all knew who he was at the time, but he wasn't even an executive of the company. He was a high-producing agent. Everybody knew that would be on lots of panels and stuff. Rick sees him getting on our plane, flying back from Austin, so he's like, "Hey, make sure we save a seat." So we saved him a seat, and Rick picked his brain for 3.5 hours. And he didn't know who Rick was. He didn't have to talk to him, but for 3.5 hours, he just spilled his brains on what he could as far as, how he's running his team, what he's seen work, what he hasn't seen work. In most companies, you don't get that. I worked in corporate America before, and it was very cutthroat. It wasn't like that. Most people were it's almost kind of like Frodo with his little ring. They want to make sure they had the secret sauce, and they didn't want to share it. But, what we've all learned at Keller is there is no secret sauce. It's just, the market's going to bear what the market's going to bear. So as long as people go out there and are willing to push, get themselves out of their comfort zone, try to get business, it should come back your way. As a CEO of yourself, how would you rate yourselves on a scale 1 to 5 through the first week of Ignite, first 2 weeks?
Maybe a 2.
2? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Well, I've tried to coach people a lot more now when I sit down on especially when agents were signing them up, just to teach them too that, some of them, they come in, they totally understand the, being an independent contractor. Some of them don't. Like the gentleman we went yesterday, "Well, are you guys, do you guys feed me leads?" Blah, blah. I said, "Well, no, we don't typically feed people leads, but we teach you how to go out and generate." And then I kind of walk them through, how they do it over C21, how they do it different, different brokerages, different franchises have different models. I said, our model is to teach our agents how to generate their own leads, and then we give them all the tools so that when they do that, it comes back to them. The other offices, with Century 21, they have their office sign on all the signs for a reason. That way they get all the calls. That way they can talk you into sitting up front and fielding calls. Which, it's great, because it probably can get you 4 or 5 deals a year. But if you're willing to, while you're sitting there, if you took that same amount of time you're sitting there and you go out and you lead generate, you're going to get more than 4 or 5 leads. So it's teaching you, to be a business person. I think, this industry did itself a disservice for a long time. It kind of taught agents how to be indentured service. That's not what you are. You're a service professional. So it's, 1, helping you see value in yourself, and 2, seeing the company sees value. Okay, so what have you picked up over the last week that you think you would do differently as far as tactics or anything like that?
Well, I learned more about about placing signs for open houses.
Mhm,
You know, I was always taught that, you know, you should keep signs, you shouldn't go out too far with your signs. You know, you have to
Yeah.
have, the property needs to be, with just 2 or 3 turns to get to, and you shouldn't go out too far,
mhm,
because otherwise you lose people,
mhm, mhm.
and that's not the case. You're in Shanghai Village, you can come all the way out to the highway.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And before, it was like Garden Highway, and as far out as you need to go.
Mhm.
And so that was an aha moment for me.
That's good. Yeah, I think, with open house, that's something we've learned, because we've had agents who have had very successful open houses in the past, but I'd really honestly say until Dave came here, we weren't able to do the open house the way we are now. He kind of brought the aspect of, you got to do, I would say on the average open house 5-6 years ago, the person would use 5 signs and think it was fine. But, we've learned, and I know you guys have had some pretty good results before, if you want to get a lot of people there, you just got to have signs everywhere, as crazy as it is. And then obviously the only liability is praying that signs don't get stolen, because we had that happen. Once when we first opened, we only had 5 signs, and the lady took them out to do an open house. She comes back, she's like, well, 4 of the signs got stolen. When are you going to buy some more? I'm like, I don't know if we're going to buy any more at this point, if 4 of them just got stolen. But it seems like that's calmed down a lot. I know in some areas they're actually trying to ban them. A couple weeks ago on the news, we did see in the and PCAR is trying to fight it, Placer County Association of Realtors, but they're trying to ban it in Roseville and not even let them do signs anymore on the sidewalks. Well, some of these cities, they look at it like it's a nuisance. And it's kind of like, I always think of Yuba City. If you guys have been around here for a couple of years, there's been lots of issues with signage as far as they tried making it so people put banners by the highway. Now they've kind of regulated how high up. I mean, to me, I don't know that I see a sign causing a lot of accidents. But personally, I don't know. That's just me. I mean, if somebody wants to put a sign up and they want to spend the money, as long as it doesn't look bad,
As long as it's not,
Well, like I was talking,
the ones that stay forever and it's for a garage sale that happened several months ago.
or the famous going out of business sale. There used to be, if you guys have been in the area, I think it's the Boot Barn now, but it used to be a furniture store. And for like 3 years, it was the going out of business furniture store.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay.
Yeah.
So you guys have been still open for 2 years, so they were just, that was their sign, to try to clear inventory all the time.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I was teasing my wife the other day. There were a couple of chickens out on the highway, and I was making a joke because you guys probably know this. One of our old team leaders was Leslie McBride. She used to be the mayor here in town. I actually had a conversation with her once about the chickens, and she thought the chickens were cool, and I really don't. I mean, they're funny to see, but I'm like, if we really want to say we're a modern city, we really can't have chickens run out on the highway. It doesn't serve our best image. Some people think they're cute, but it's, to me, that's more of a traffic issue than some of the signs.
See, I didn't used to like the chickens either, but then I learned the history.
I mean, they grow on you.
I learned the history behind why they're there, and now it's like, okay.
So you'll have to enlighten me. What's the history? Because I heard there used
Years
to be.
ago, back in the 50s, there was an auction yard
Is that what?
where,
Okay.
where Carl's Jr. is.
Mm-hmm. That's,
And
they just stuck
when they
around.
moved away, the chickens stayed. And we've had chickens ever since. So it's like a historical thing.
Mhm.
So now, because I really like historical stuff, so.
Me too. I do like historical stuff. Yeah, a while back, somebody posted bunch of old pictures of Plymouth Street and stuff like that all the way back in the 50s. I don't know if you guys have seen Be Blown Away. You just wouldn't even recognize it. There's no way you would think it was Yuba City. And there was pictures of Marysville. You're like, there's no way that was.
Did you see the post on Facebook a while back of the Marysville Hotel?
No, I didn't see
All
that
the
one.
inside photos?
No.
I'll
I'd love
I'll
to.
show
Yeah,
it
you
to
have to show it to me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Rick almost bought it, by the way. Yeah, he was really close for a while. It was in the about 220, 230 range. They were going to sell it. Angie, of course, wouldn't let him do it, but it was when I first heard. He told me, yeah, I almost bought the.
Wow.
What are you going to do with it, Rick? Man, I love Rick. He's a great guy. I always love telling stories. We go to Austin one time and as you guys know, he doesn't have many vices. One of his big vices is his cigars. So they had this old Cuban cigar rolling thing that you roll the cigars on. He bought it for like $40 and brought it home, and Angie chewed his butt. I was like, why'd you even buy it? You want to roll your own cigars? Well, no, it was just cool, and I had to have it. So time blocking I kind of talked about earlier. So if you guys aren't familiar with premise, I'm sure most of you have heard it, is just setting certain time blocks during your schedule that you can follow to either do lead generation or whatever activities you want to do. Now the 2 things about it is, 1, you have to set it and follow it. But 2, what I've learned over the years too is you have to be realistic. For example, I'll give you kind of years ago with Roy. with Roy, with his MAPS coach, they kind of said, hey, during this time, this is the best time for you to call from 9 to 12. So every day I want you to block those 3 hours out. That's when you're going to do all your lead generation calling. If you finish early, that's fine, blah, blah. But in the real world, we know that doesn't work because, for example, on Wednesdays, you have the team meeting. So if I walk you through our week, if I was a licensed agent, I would have, the MLS meeting on Tuesday. So I think it's valuable to go to that. So if you go there, at least they're going to be there an hour. If you go preview homes, you're really going to be about 2. So on Tuesday, then ideally time blocking 9 to noon on Tuesday just isn't realistic. And that's fine. So then you would move your time block, to the afternoon. So it's just being smarter about it too. You have to react to the situation and what the facts are on the ground, what you're dealing with. So if you have to move something around, that's fine, but just still have the time block. I mean, that's what we do in the end. She still has the time block to do her lead generation, but she has to move it to the afternoon. Same thing on Wednesdays because we have staff meeting at 9. We have coaching 9:30, and then we have the team meeting at 11. So again, if she was just sticking that time block every day, that day wouldn't work. So she would move it to the afternoon. So I'd say, obviously the 2 biggest things are, 1, set it up, set it realistic. It doesn't necessarily have to be 3 hours. You figure out your time blocks for what you are. The main thing is you have a designated time that I'm going to work on this every day. And if you finish what you need to work on, that's fine. You go on and move to something else. But it's just having that on your schedule so hey, during that time, I should be able to work on what I want to work on. It's not that. Nothing's going to get in my way. I don't know how many of you guys went to Rev Up. It says in Rev Up, we're going to try to set some goals and stuff like that. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but the main thing would be just, you should have some sort of goals, some sort of financial goals, some sort of goals as far as how many homes you want to close and stuff like that. And then obviously you want to track it and revisit it. Normally the way we've kind of seen a trend is ideally, you want to do it on a calendar year. But for most of the coaching stuff I've seen, they really want to push you. If you set your goal for the year is to make 60,000, they really say you should almost be at 85, ideally to 90% of your goal by the time you reach the 4th quarter. Because here, we do have a little bit of seasonality, but it's not as bad as in other parts of the country. But you still have to go again to the facts, and the facts are, if you look at a typical real estate year, if you look at 2014, this is how it goes. It's a bell curve. There's no doubt about it. Most of the transactions are done from March through September. That's just the facts of the way it is every year. Now, that doesn't mean we all take off in September and don't come back to March, even though some agents tend to do that. But, that the main thing is just being cognizant of the fact of what the actual market is saying you're going to do. That way, I don't want anybody to get discouraged because they hit their marks all along the way, and then they get to the 4th quarter, and they're really pushing hard, but they just can't hit their goal because of the way the market's kind of dipped down a little bit. So ideally, that's why almost as you get into the 4th quarter, you kind of want to be ahead of the game a little bit. This does have a worksheet, and I can give you guys a fancier one than this one that can calculate. But basically, can even whittle down, if you say I want to close 30 transactions a year, and that's my ultimate goal, you can backtrack it all the way down to how many contacts you have to make per day. Because it's all about contacts, what your contact ratio is as far as how many people you can get into appointments, how many people you get appointments that you can actually get into either listings or to be looking to purchase a home. So it lets you backtrack it, back work it all that way. I mean, they kind of whittle it down to the ridiculous, as they call it. As far as ratios, there are some ratios you do want to keep on your mind, which is, typically if you're looking at a healthy real estate business you want to try to get to is what they call the 60-40 ratio. So 60-40. And that's 60% of your income comes from listings, and 40% of your income comes from buyers. They consider that, if you're getting a health check, this is what they consider a healthy ratio. Now in the beginning, this is where they ultimately want you to get to now. Now most agents, if you look at the industry as a whole, are actually a 40-60 ratio. Your first goal is to get to 50-50, and then you're healthy and you build on it from that. But once you get to where you want to be, this should be the ultimate goal. And it's the ultimate goal for the office too, to where we see we're at a 60-40 ratio where 60% of our income is coming from listings. Because as you know, when you have a listing, it's a lot easier during the transaction. People are bringing the offers to you, you have more control. You're not sending in offers that may or may not get shown. It can get rejected for whatever reason. So it puts you more in control. Plus, numbers show that if you have your sign in the yard, you have a listing, you market the property correctly, you should get 1 sale and 2 buyers from it. And that's normally what the ratio is. We're going to circle back now to the big why for a second. So with the big why, and I think I've seen some of you actually do this, one suggestion they have is doing a vision board, which I know you have. I think you have one too, right? So vision board, is honestly huge. I'll be the first one to admit a couple years ago, I don't know if you guys ever saw The Secret. That was a little too hairy-fairy for me. I tried to do it and it just didn't work. But I still think visualization is key and it helps. So I think it's good to have in your space, kind of what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve. So it helps you remind you, especially when you get to a time where things can be a little tough, it helps you kind of go through and remember what the ultimate goal is. Because we all know not every transaction is going to run smooth. That's just not the case. But as you get stronger and more comfortable, and as you're working towards your goals, as long as you have that in mind, when something happens, it doesn't knock you off your game as easy. Because everybody's going to have a bad day. Life isn't. Nobody walks around 365 days a year with a smile on their face. If they are, they're flat out kidding or lying to you. I'll read a quick paragraph on the power of vision boards. Countless successful people create vision boards or vision books, which contain pictures and words that visually represent their most important goals, aspirations, and desired outcomes. These people know that in order to achieve their goals, they must look at them at all times. A vision board accomplishes just that. It serves as a constant reminder of your vision and goals and renews your energy and enthusiasm for maintaining your focus on your daily 10-4. If you haven't created a vision board, a good little process is finding a quiet, relaxing space with no distractions where you can work on your vision board. Go through magazines or browse the internet to find pictures that bring your why to life. Then you put them on the board. It said be careful. It said one thing to make sure you do through the process is be careful not to think or judge too much. Like he kind of said earlier, let your instincts take over, because your instincts are going to pull you towards what you actually want to do. Another one they have is, obviously you want to aim high. If you aim for right here, but you only hit right here, that's still pretty good results. So, setting the bar high helps you still try to achieve high goals. So, anyone can succeed, but not everyone will. Why? The ones who do succeed have focus, the ability to concentrate their thoughts and actions on the most important tasks. At night helps you bring focus to your business. Hopefully you've made the daily 10-4 activities part of your focus. You've time blocked the daily 10-4 to protect the time to accomplish these, which gives you short-term focus, and then reality hits. You may start to realize that it's hard to maintain that focus every day and over time. It's time to get help. Accountability to shape and reshape your focus. Accountability gets you to refocus on your goals and priorities. Accountability is about getting and using feedback. In learning loop, we always say feedback is the breakfast of champions. So don't be afraid of feedback on yourself. Normally we're almost always our toughest, harshest critics. So, it's fine to hold yourself accountable, but don't do it to the point where it's causing you not to do your job. So you don't want to stay in that realm too much. Reward yourself. I think that's a key one too. Set some rewards you want to do as far as for yourself personally, for your family, for vacation, stuff like that. That way you can start working towards it. I've been guilty of that. Something I am going to have to do going into next year is I haven't taken a week off since I took over back in July of 2011. So normally I take a day off here. And that's kind of how I've always been. I've never been one to go and take a week off, but I need to because I'm rolling over more and more time off that I don't use. So I need to hold myself accountable at the beginning of the year just to block some time off. Especially with my wife, she can't really take time off during the year because she's a teacher. They don't get a ton of time off because they get the summer off, so I'm gonna have to start making so we can do stuff during the summer. Choose an accountability and script partner. The highest achievers have coaches who've held them accountable. Mia Hamm, Michael Jordan, Joe Montana, Troy Aikman, Mary Lou Retton, George Foreman. all have contributed much of their success to their coaches holding them accountable, so who will hold you accountable? You know, like me, that's something I wanted to raise the bar, so that's why I have a accountability partner now as a MCA. Ideally, you know, you should pick someone who's kind of in the same realm you are, because you don't want to meet with someone who's already doing, you know, a ton of deals, and they're just going to burn you out because they're going to be giving you all their ideas. You want someone who's kind of on the same playing field as you to help you feel your way through it. So one, you know, accountability partner is huge. Two is having a script partner, someone you can go over scripts, practice scripts with, see how they sound. You can bounce them back off.
I have a problem with scripts.
Well, scripts are hard. You know, most people are uncomfortable with them. I'll be the first to admit I'm highly uncomfortable
My
with
problem with
scripts.
scripts is that they're all written by D. They're not written by me or Estes, they're all
That's very
written by
true.
D.
That is very true. Well, I'll give you, you know, Gary would probably slap me for saying this, but a couple years ago when he came out with one of the things they say in there is you can't multitask. And I always said, so say the people that can't multitask.
Yeah.
Now, I agree 100% that if you're multitasking, your attention isn't 100% on what you're doing. But I also think there are some instances where you work on things that you don't have to put 100% attention into, and you can do other things. If it's something you need 100% focus on, yeah, you should be multitasking. But I agree, you know, some of that stuff you have to look where it comes from. So, I mean, I think some best practice for you would be kind of look at some of those scripts, maybe try to rewrite them and how you would feel or how you would take them, and then bounce them off, you know, an accountability peer partner you could work on them with. We do have, I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a big binder in Pidgey Book. It's a little bit older, because it was probably around before I was around, back in 2004, 2005, but a huge book of scripts. But the main thing is to just practice them so you get comfortable. You know, we don't want to practice on the public. At the same time, you have to get comfortable with them. You have to internalize them. You don't want to be a robot just reading them off. So, I mean, if you have to totally rewrite it, as long as you're getting the gist of what it is, I still think that's fine. You know, that's what we do at Keller. We think outside the box. We think of, you know, how can we use this to our advantage? Because I've seen scripts before that I know would work for me.
Yeah.
But so when you're meeting with your accountability partner, you're going to have to be prepared, obviously, to answer a few things, which is, you know, what your goal is, what your big why is, what your results were, what your wins were, your opportunities, and what you'll do differently during the next week. Now, if you guys are doing this with April, I'm sure this is a lot of stuff she's going over. Because the one thing that has gotten Keller to the level that it's at are two things: accountability and transparency. Those are the two biggest things. Accountability and transparency kind of go, you know, I always say, you know, if you want to fix the issues we have with local, state, federal government, that'd be one quick, easy way to fix it, is have full accountability and transparency. You can't have the conversation of, are we paying too many taxes, are we not paying enough taxes, until we know where all the money's going. Until because we don't know what the bills are. We don't know how much it truly costs to run this country. We don't. People can say they do, but no one does. No one's ever sat down and figured out this is how much money we actually need to, and then you can look at things like, well, do we really need to spend money on that? Then you can have those conversations. But we can't even have the conversation when, and unfortunately for so long our country was doing well that no one asked me those questions. Now that times have gotten tougher, people start questioning, where's this money going to and why? You always make a joke out, and this is a true story, you guys can Google it. Years ago, I think it was in 85 or 84, the Navy spent over $5 billion on what they called the gay bomb, which was a pheromone bomb. They had researched that they were going to drop on another country that would cause them to turn gay and not fight us and do what they do. Which, that's what our government does sometimes. So we'd seen that beforehand. I'm sure people would say, no, we shouldn't be spending money on stuff like that. But that's, you know, what's helped Keller grow so well is, you know, the accountability and transparency. You have to have transparency. You have to be able to have that tough conversation. You know, me and Peter have had tough conversations before in my role and his role, but it goes both ways because there's accountability and transparency, and that's the main thing. It has to go both ways. Holding someone else accountable, obviously you want to keep the conversation confidential. You want to be encouraging and supportive. When excuses or complaints come up, maybe ask, you know, how can you get it done? How can I help you? And Tony's actually going to go over a lot of this tomorrow, which is, you know, the 6 personal perspectives, which is really changing your mindset from a victim mindset to how do I go and be learning based and look at things, because human nature a lot of times is, hey, that's not my job, or hey, that's not my function. But is that I mean, I can't do that on you guys. You guys are going to get ticked off at leave. You know what I mean? So you have to figure out, even if you don't know the answer, how do you get the person, how do you help them, how do you get the information they need? Confirm the date and time of your next accountability check-in. So I would meet, at least maybe once every 2 weeks, if not, ideally, it would be perfect if you could meet every week, but everybody schedules, that's not always the case. And then, they kind of have a set group of questions you can go over, which is, what's your goal? What's your big why? What results did you achieve this week? What wins did you experience? What opportunities for change or improvement came out of that? What will you do differently next week? And how will you reward yourself when you're accomplished? So, I mean, you can come up with your own idea of things, but the main thing, obviously, you just want to keep it confidential, because when you're in that situation where you're being transparent and you're holding each other accountable, you're going to share things you probably normally wouldn't. So you don't want to put anybody in a precarious position of them feeling goofy because they shared something you're going to pick on them on. So last part we have is just the action plan. So the action plan is you want to finalize all your details for your upcoming highly successful open house. So I'm assuming if we would have went through all 5 classes, that would have been plenty of your homework requirements for the week. Prepare for next week's power sessions. So make sure you do a little pre-reading. If there's things you want to print out, bring them to the class. But basically the next segment of the Ignite Power Sessions are going to be prepare to work with buyers, which you're going to find out how to find and service buyers simply, inexpensively, and quickly, and earn income fast. Session 7 is going to be the buyer consultation, which is going to pave the way to long-term relationships with buyers and prevent objections from even coming up. So that'll help you, hopefully get some scripts and stuff for that, because buyers can be fun sometimes. I mean, the most common way we were talking to a new agent yesterday was he wanted to talk about the rate, and we had to explain to him the rate it's not something you really want to dwell on. When you're going around, you don't want your client to get stuck in shopping for rate land. You know what I mean? Because you hear that a lot, like, hey, so who can get me what? Most lenders, if they're decent lenders, they're going to get the best rate. The only difference you're really going to find between each lender is there are going to be some that have different programs they have access to. That's going to be the main thing. The 8th Ignite Power Session is going to be Find and Show Homes. So you're going to learn how to streamline the process of helping buyers find the right home to buy, so you're not driving them around to, I've heard, especially tell horror stories back in the day where you take someone around to 33 houses before they write an offer. There's no way I can do that.
On average, like if you're showing homes, do most buyers go with you in your vehicle, or do they follow you?
We've seen some changes with that. I mean, ideally, now I would honestly say the best practice is to have them follow you. There's safety issues, just stuff like that, just so much quirky stuff that could happen. I know in the old days, the big thing used to be you throw them all in your car, you go drive around. Honestly, at this point, best practice is probably not do that. Just to have them meet you there for safety reasons, because in this day and age, you don't know who you're meeting where. And that way you at least have an opportunity to escape or get in your phone to lock the door and hopefully call law enforcement if you need to. The 9th session is going to be on making and receiving offers. So perfect your technique to streamline the offer process on both sides of the transaction. So you can think of it from the seller's point of view and you as writing offers. Hey, if I write this offer, are they going to think it's legitimate to take a good, long look at it? And then the 10th session is going to be coming back to accountability again, which is going to be checking in on time blocking. So your homework from this class would be to start working on time blocking. Try to set some time blocks, even if it's just 1 or 2 days a week. Try to set them, stick to them, and see how it goes. I mean, that's the big thing. One of our regional owners always says famously, you guys would like it, they call him Dillyisms, Dick Dillingham. He's a very good orator, very good speaker, always has good jokes, stuff like that. But one of the basic ones I already heard him say was just do it and then do it better. You just got to start doing something. Once you start doing something, you can build on it, and then you can figure out how to get better. So, do you guys have any questions or big ahas from the class?
Well, how was the ratio, the 60-40 ratio?
Yeah, that's a good goal to get to, as far as healthy-wise, because then, you still want income to convert. What's scary is there's a lot of agents out there, I'll even use Sarah Becker, because I know her. Sarah Becker, she does a ton of business. She's #1 agent on the board, but if you look, I would say she's probably a 95-5 ratio. she still makes a ton of money, but she even told us when we were looking at bringing her over before that she probably burns through 30, 40 buyer leads a month. It's all buyer leads because she doesn't have time for it. She's like, I make plenty of money, I'm happy, I just want to focus on listing. So ideally, what Roy was trying to coach her and do was, hey, come join us. We can show you how to build a team so you can have somebody work all those buyer leads. Then you earn even more money, and you're not working with them. It's your buyer's agent, and you're feeding them because you're able, because of the amount of listings you have, and the amount of business you have, you're actually able to get viable leads. So it can go the other way too, you know. So it's just learning what that happy medium is. And that's why they always say a 60-40 ratio is a very good happy medium as far as what your income should be.
I liked the video. I'm gonna Google it.
Yeah, he has some, I've watched some of his other videos. He's very, very, very deep thinker. He thinks about stuff. Because, he brings up stuff that we don't think about. Why does Apple do so well?
Well, and he kept repeating, people don't buy what you do, they buy
Why you do it. Mm-hmm. Which I think, just my experience I've had from here, if you can get to that point where people are doing it because of your big why, they're going to be less likely to leave you and more apt to, whenever you have a bump in the road along the way of the transaction, they're not going to just skip town and decide to go to work with them over something that was real minor. It's going to make it easier to go through those sort of things. Because we know a typical transaction from A to Z is rarely is it ever where it's just simple. There's always going to be a bump in the road at some point. So it helps you able to bridge that gap a lot easier. So that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time.
So yeah, if you guys want to check anything else out, it's Simon Sinek. He does have his own web series. I think it's actually TED TV is what